Good evening. You're watching Nationwide at 6. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. The big story that we are tracking this evening for you. Well, a single movie trailer has rattled China, and how? It's government propaganda machinery is in full swing, trying to tell what they say is not the correct version as far as what happened in Galwan. We're going to tell you why what Chinese propaganda machinery is saying is completely false and incorrect, and why a single movie movie trailer is rattling China. But first up, let's get you what the big story really is. Even as India and China cautiously navigate a fragile thaw in relations following the Galwan Valley clashes that took place in 2020, summer of 2020, a new flashpoint seems to have emerged, this time on the screen. The trailer of Battle of Galwan, which is a Bollywood film slated for release in April 2026, starring Salman Khan, has now stirred a sharp reaction coming in from the Chinese state propaganda. The Global Times has dismissed this film as, well, what it calls an over-the-top theme. That's what it has actually said, an over-the-top drama, even as online debates are intensifying. Chinese commentators have said that this is exaggerated storytelling, one-sided Indian narrative, saying that cinema cannot alter historical facts or territorial realities. But we at NDTV are asking just a few questions. How is it that a single movie trailer rattles the entire Chinese state propaganda and machinery? And let's put that out. How is it that India is now reacting to the Galwan film row that China has in fact created? And then we of course ask the big questions on it. First and foremost, India is a country where freedom of expression is available, entitled for every citizen of this country. This is not China. This is India, where everybody is allowed to freely express their opinion. And that's exactly what cinematic expression is. It's part of India's culture, ethos, and something that allows Indian filmmakers to have the artistic freedom. This is not China, where Beijing diktat decides who gets to actually freely express themselves and who don't. Lastly, the other important part that India has put out is the Defense Ministry can be approached if there is any need for any clarity on any specific issues. We all know the Galwan Valley clash, how it unfolded, how Chinese soldiers came into Indian territory and in fact they threatened and attacked Indian soldiers completely unprovoked. That was how the sequence of events followed. Now, government has said that it has no role to play as far as the film is concerned, and this of course comes back to the freedom of expression that every Indian citizen is allowed. Now, let's now get you the big questions that we are asking, and then we're going to open this up with our panelists as well. First and foremost, how India's story is actually a provocation for China. This is India's story, Indian filmmaker, we are putting this out. Why is it provocative? Next up, does Indian cinema actually need China's approval? There is cinematic expression, freedom of expression, Indian filmmakers creating movies for the global audience. Why is it that suddenly the Chinese approval is needed for any of this? The third key question we're putting out, why is it that you're objecting to a teaser even before you've seen the movie? The movie is going to release in April 2026. One short teaser comes out and suddenly everybody gets rattled. Why object to it without seeing what's there? Then can Galwan movie actually hurt China's confidence? That's the big question. And lastly, we put out the fact that China has denied death of its soldiers. 42 soldiers, several reports have come out, actually died. China did not owe up even to its own martyrs. And now it is objecting only because it doesn't want the truth to actually come out. They haven't owned up to their losses for a very long time. Look at how it treats their martyrs. But India has all along saluted its martyrs, and it is this fear that China is feeling is going to come out. Let's put this out to Andrew Lung, who is a strategist as far as China is concerned, essentially the Chinese voice on the panel, so to say, joins us from Hong Kong. And we have Lieutenant General KJ.S. Dhillon, who's with us to talk more about how this movie, when it comes out, puts forth the view as far as what really happened 14,000 feet above ground in biting cold, how Indian soldiers fought back. General Dhillon, let me start with you, sir. A movie trailer has rattled the Chinese propaganda machinery. But the fact is, this is the movie that will tell, and tell the valor of Indian soldiers for everybody to see.
Good evening, ma'am, and good evening to the fellow panelists and all your viewers. Yes, as you very rightly said in your preamble, India is country of free speech, free freedom of expression, and our mediums, may it be cinema, may it be our media, television, social media, or even for that matter, print media and books. We are a free country and we express ourselves freely. Even the dissent is expressed freely and it's acceptable. We are the world's largest democracy and we express ourselves in all forms. Whereas China is always behind an iron curtain. And a small teaser, as you very rightly said, if a small teaser can rattle a country, that only shows that country has something to hide, which they have not been telling their public or they have not been telling the world. Whereas India very clearly gave out their casualties. We gave out their names and their everything, address, and their families are proud of their parent, father or brother or sister or son's sacrifice in the line of duty for the nation. That is how we treat our soldiers. That is how we treat our people who lay down their lives or make the supreme sacrifice defending the nation. Whereas China is different. They have not, in the initial stages, they didn't accept any losses of life. Subsequently, something came out with 4 deaths. And then we all know that that's more than 40 or even more. But point is, we are very clear. We do not suppress the freedom of expression. We let the freedom of speech, freedom of expression flourish in a most democratic manner and let the whole world know what happened in Galwan. Whereas they have something to hide, that's why they're rattled and they're objective.
And to respond to that, it's just because that China has something to hide, that it's actually coming out with these propaganda pieces in global times and it's getting so rattled.
Well, freedom of expression is not the special privilege of any country like India. And as far as freedom of expression is concerned, China's got its own film, not about the Galwan conflict, but the much talked about, much criticized Wolf Warrior movie. You heard about that. I think the whole world is talking about the Wolf Warrior. That's China's freedom of expression as well. But China was much criticized for portraying its own heroes. And I think that it's normal for countries to portray its own heroes. And now, let's face it, the Galwan conflict is a turning point for the worse in relations between China and India. And let's face it, the line of actual control has never been clearly determined on either side. And so there are always these disputes. Because territorial integrity is central to the pride of national pride of any country, China and India.
All that is fine, but why write such propaganda pieces in global times?
I think that both countries. Sorry.
I'm saying all that is fine, but the propaganda piece that has come out in global times where it says Bollywood film Battle of Galwan sparks controversy for distorting facts. Experts says no over-the-top drama can affect a nation's sacred territory. Why is the Chinese propaganda machinery reacting so much? It's a movie trailer.
Well, I think that the difference in the narrative is well known. I mean, throughout this conflicts for so many decades, as I said, the LAC is never clearly defined. And then the situation has got from bad to worse in Indian-China relations. And since then, both leaders, both India and China, have determined to scale down the rhetoric and to de-escalate, leading to a more stable relationship. Differences accepted, and of course, I think that that's the best way to deal with a relationship between neighbors with contested territorial claims. And I think that the Indian-China relationship should be put on a more even keel. And the timing of this movie is very ill-timed, regardless of its merits, regardless of freedom of expression.
So the movie is ill-timed, there is propaganda, over-the-top drama, but at no point of time will you saying that you are overreacting simply because your calculations or the Chinese calculations are that if something like this comes out, then the carefully crafted propaganda that we have put out is going to be dismantled. General Dhillon, respond to that.
Absolutely, ma'am. Chinese have put out a very well drafted narrative for their own public, who is not, very open to outside media and outside social media, and they have their own way of, sort of giving narratives to their public. And film is a very powerful media. Film is a very powerful medium, either as authorized or even by the black marketing and through the pirated versions. It will reach the Chinese audience or the Chinese public, which the Chinese government does not want them to know that truth. And as regards the gentleman saying that India-China relations must be improved, yes, of course they should be improved. And the aggression came from the Chinese side during Galwan. They came with their weapons and machetes, and they were the ones who hit our soldiers first. They were in our side of the line of actual control. And they escalated the whole thing. The whole aggression was from Chinese side, but that's a debate for another day. Today we are saying
unprovoked aggression from the Chinese side. If there is an Indian movie that is putting that forth clearly for our audiences to know and talk about the valor of Indian soldiers, there's no reason why Chinese propaganda machinery should be so rattled and come out with these kind of one-sided pieces that they have. It clearly says they have a lot more to hide. And of course, this movie, Galwan movie, will dismantle the Chinese propaganda that they have created for their domestic audiences. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks much, gentlemen, for joining me in this edition of Nationwide at 6.